CBS News.
Are you paying too much for term life?
We expect lots of clouds with scattered showers and thunder showers likely for today. High temperatures holding into the lower 80s tonight. A few lingering showers for a while, low 68 to 70. A few more passing showers with some clouds on Thursday, with a little drier and pleasant weather returning Friday. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world-famous sauce. Open daily locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Ooh, baby, it's the Mr. Judd Show.
And this is Dr. Danielle Mitchell, and you are now welcome to the first segment of This Doc is in the House. Today on our show, we're going to be covering a multitude of topics, which include everybody's favorite, the sick care model of medicine. Joining me in the studio today, I have Eric, Mr. Grumpy himself.
That's it. I'm always Mr. Grumpy. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Eric. Thank you guys so much for having me on. So I want to start off with an article that was in the Times Free Press this last Sunday. I don't know if people had the opportunity to see this, but it was basically highlighting a new model of care that we're starting to see crop up in the market, and it's called direct primary care. Have you heard of this model?
From what I read and what I remember when I was a little boy, which was a long time ago, I think this is the model that they had when I was younger.
That's exactly it. And so talking about what is direct primary care, that's where you actually have direct access to your primary care doctor without the middleman in between. Who's the middleman these days?
I'm guessing that would be the insurance company. Everybody loves the insurance company. And I want to remind everybody, you're listening to Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. We are the hottest, the newsiest, the talkingest radio station in town. Now I'm going to get back to the doc here because she has a wealth of information to share with you. And she said she was going to ask me questions. So this is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. So let's talk more about the wealth on health here that I have for stuff. Just a brief history. So about 2 years ago, this November, my clinic, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, opened up. And the model that I participate in is one that is really unique. I'm a fish that's swimming upriver right now because I am a solo, independent private practitioner. And a lot of doctors, in fact, I dare say about 98% of all physicians that you would go to see today are owned by corporate medicine entities who participate in the sick care model of medicine.
So when you say corporate owned, that means someone has made a business out of owning the doctors, basically.
Pretty much. So when I say corporate owned, I mean that physicians are pretty much removed from the business aspect of what's going on in medicine. And so they're really not aware to some extent about what happens with insurance companies. It's kind of like, the Wizard of Oz and the man behind or the woman behind the curtain. We don't see in corporate medicine what's happening, but we experience all of the negative consequences, and so do our patients from that model. So that's what we're going to talk about.
And the reason that they have to go corporate, is it because of all the insurance and compliance, and you have to hire all the extra people?
Yeah. So, when you talk about why so many physicians go corporate with stuff, it's because we are trained in a corporate model and we are not exposed usually to anything otherwise. So it's a very natural progression for people to go into that. But they're not seeing, again, what's happening behind closed doors with the business model. And so when they start to see, me as a physician, when I was looking at contracts and I was being expected to see 30 and 40 plus patients a day in a regular work day, I was like, what's going on here? This is not right. I can't do my job as a physician and feel good about the healthcare I've delivered to somebody and still arrive at an accurate diagnosis. And I think just as fair, maintain my sanity as a human being through the day.
Well, I'm sure you didn't get into medicine to see that many patients a day, too.
No, and it really wasn't. I think, I graduated from medical school in 2006, and I was actually involved with medicine far beyond when I was actually in med school. I used to work as an urgent care technician, and that was throughout the 90s. And even then, I don't see the volume pressures for having to see so many patients per day. Even in the 90s, I didn't see it then, but it was certainly starting at that point, I think.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I'm guessing in the middle 80s, late 80s is when I noticed it changed, because I remember going to the family physician as a young tyke, and it was a totally different experience than it is now. I mean, you go in now. Well, I mean, just it seemed like the physician had more time, knew the family better, and I don't, when it come time to pay, there was no card given; it was a check written. And I'm sure that was a predetermined amount at that time. I didn't know.
You knew what you were going to pay.
I didn't
before
see the
you went.
negotiations going on, but now it seems like more people are worried about their copay and whose network someone's in.
That's exactly it. So this is getting into, again, this term that I've coined, the sick care model of medicine. And so, when you think about these average experiences of what people have, a lot of times I think that people, when they first decide, oh, great, now I need to go see the doctor, how long is this going to take me to get in to see them? First of all, on average, I've had patients come to my practice who, before they ended up being patients with me, have complained about, I couldn't get an appointment for 2 to 3 months. And that was for a non-urgent issue. And then if they had an urgent care issue, good luck.
Right.
It's like you're either going to the emergency department or you're going to urgent care. And so it really started to, when I started seeing this, I was like, what is factoring into this? And so I just kept observing this stuff. People were saying, and I follow some social media stuff pretty closely on these topics. I would see people say, and they'd post pictures. I walked into my doctor's office and this is what I saw. A waiting sign that said, Dr. So-and-so is running 2.5 hours behind.
Well, that'd
Please
be nice.
have a seat.
That'd be nice.
It brings a whole new perspective.
I'm going to the faith healers when I'm if I have to wait 2.5 hours.
I know, it's like it brings a whole new
Yes.
meaning to the word waiting room, right?
Yeah, well, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, they go ahead and make it a waiting room, so they want to make sure that they're not doing any kind of misrepresentation there, because you are going to wait.
You're going to wait. That's
so
exactly
typically, if I need to come to see you, I mean, is it a 2-week, 2-month out, or can I get in the next day or that afternoon? Or
a lot of times, so we will try and reserve urgent care spots for true urgent care. Somebody that's had back pain for 3 or more months and it hasn't changed, that's not true urgent care, but we're really into triaging. You know what? Are you really sick? Is there something? Did you break something? Are you bleeding?
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're going to try our darndest to get people in that same day if we're open. The second thing is, for an average appointment wait time for me, it's usually less than 2 weeks. A lot of times we can get people in within a couple days.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of times too, we will have a few same day availables that are still left. So really the model that I'm trying to foster is trying to get people in on direct primary care, which is a membership model. And membership models, when you look at what they do overall, as we talk through this hour, they're going to actually decrease wait times for people, both for appointment times to get in to see their doctor, but also the time that you wait in the waiting room, which is really, I think, important for people. So when we look,
I've never understood that. If everyone's sick in the waiting room, why do you want to collect those people together?
That's right. That's right. I think it's a good sign when you walk into a clinic and the waiting room is actually a smaller area, because that tells you not very many people are going to be waiting. So that's a big part of it. Good luck when you walk into the waiting area that's got 40 chairs.
I mean, if I have the plague and David has a broken foot, I'm not so sure he should be in the same way.
Yeah, you don't want David having a broken foot and the plague the next day.
No,
that would be
don't.
bad.
No.
So we try to reduce wait times, and that's another benefit, I think, of the direct primary care model. So other things that I see happening, and this is, interesting too. So when people finally do get that appointment and they're like, oh, I finally get to see the doctor. And then they walk in and they're like, you're not my doctor.
Right.
Who are you?
Yeah. Well, we did a little swap on you. I don't know if you know that or not.
Am I talking to like the receptionist that's now playing?
Or was it some guy that walked in, put on a white coat and said, hey, I've always
yeah.
wanted to be a doctor?
So a lot of times our system now to help cost control, and you'll see this utilized more so, I think, in corporate medical entities, is there's a bigger increase in the utilization of ancillary care providers. And so these would be our staff, like our physician assistants, our nurse practitioners. These are people who have additional training, and they are also now, and they've always been part of the care team, but they're being utilized more now in what I would consider, in a lot of cases, an inappropriate physician role. They're getting handed very complex cases that I think well extend the base of their training. Now, with that being said, I do think that these care providers have a wonderful base to treat up to a certain extent, and they should be utilized in that fashion. However, just last night, I was watching on social media, somebody posted they went in and took their child in for a suture repair. And apparently the nurse practitioner came in to start the procedure and started sewing up the laceration, and then handed the procedure off to finish suturing to the medical assistant.
Wow. And they almost have to do that because they're seeing so many patients, you think?
That's part of it. I think it's inappropriate supervision. Also, reading the comments that I think transpired in this conversation, being somebody who used to be a medical assistant, I'm familiar with the training that they've gone through. And I also have my own medical assistant in my clinic that helps me through the day. And a lot of people have commented and said, medical assistants don't receive formal training in suture laceration repair. They have training and they can receive training to take sutures out, but to put them in, there's definitely formal training that needs to happen there. And when I read that, I was like, that ultimately it's up to the license of the physician who's supervising that care. And I would feel extremely uncomfortable if somebody who was going in caring for a patient that I was ultimately responsible for ended up doing a procedure they're not trained on.
I mean, think of the patient here. The doctor begins and says,
exactly.
I'll see you later. They'll take over. I mean,
exactly.
That's pretty important.
And so, and apparently, like I said, the senior provider had left the room and delegated that care at that point, whether they expressed it verbally or not. You don't leave in the middle of a procedure if you're responsible for that. And it brings up this bigger thing. So now in the sick care model of medicine, physicians are expected to supervise all of these people who have training but are working under their license technically. Right. And some of that, they don't need to be present face to face, especially when you have a very well-trained care provider and the case that they are seeing and managing is appropriate for their level of training. But what's happening now is physicians are being expected to supervise and sign off on so many of these charts. There's no discretion that's being shown. And I've been placed in a similar position in my past jobs where I'm uncomfortable with that. Number one, I openly share with the public, I have spent over $200,000 on my education to become a physician. I am not.
And I want to hear that. I don't want to hear, I got like the $30,000 certificate. and so that's what I'm going to give you is $30,000.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
poor girl right here. First in my family to go to college. Yes. And I worked darn hard at getting what I have for my degree was
and that's just the money you put out, not the time.
Exactly. So I am not willing to just sign off on a chart, which actually represents, that chart is more than a chart. That's a human being that was seen and cared for at that point. And so if I don't know that person extremely well and their level and skill, I'm not going to be somebody that's willing to sign off on that.
And it does take, it takes time because I'm sure after you see the patient, you go in. Is that when you do your chart?
When I chart afterwards. So, yep. So I chart actually usually a couple patients after I've seen somebody because there's medicines to be called out so people can get their medicines on time. And I try to keep up because it's a more accurate record that's represented at that time. That's another thing that happens in the sick care model of medicine. Have you ever requested your medical records and gone back and read what was done?
I never have. I've never seen my medical records. Nor have I seen my high school record. And I know there's things in there.
You're like, I don't want to
forever. I don't want to see them. Yeah.
So I do encourage people, especially in our model now, to go back and look at some of your records. I had a patient who sent me an email 2 weeks ago, said, I went back and requested my records as you had suggested, and found out that that she had complained during our visit that she had seen a cardiologist who had not even laid a hand on her during the visit to examine her. Yet she went back and looked at her medical record for that office visit, and it was documented that he did a full exam.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. Now, this is something, and that's not right, obviously. So when you start to see how these pressures mount, and there's certainly, there's just no excuse for that. You don't document stuff on a chart that you haven't done. But physicians, I can show some compassion here. They are so highly pressured right now to see so many patients.
Are
today.
they doing the chart right after? Maybe he does the chart after every third patient. He thinks, that'd be easy to get mixed up after that.
If you're waiting at the end of the day and you're charting your notes on patients, they fall off the radar with stuff, or you think that some things got done and they didn't. So you really need to be charting real time with stuff on your patients. And again, when you see 40 patients a day, I guarantee you that's not happening.
That's correct. You're listening to Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. You can follow us on Twitter at Hot News Talk Radio and on Facebook at Hot News Talk Radio. Give your Facebook page out.
Facebook, you can find me on Facebook under the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. And you can find me personally on Facebook, Danielle Mitchell. And I'm also on the web at www.chattanoogasportsinstitute.com.
That's chattanoogasportsinstitute.com. And you can follow us on YouTube, and we're on YouTube at Hot News Talk Radio. We have a theme here. You get the theme? And if you happen to be leaving the area like I did yesterday, even though our signal was booming in Dayton, Tennessee, I'm going to shout out to Dayton, Tennessee and Pikeville, where I spent some time yesterday. But a lot of times I'll listen to us on the TuneIn app, which was very nice. And it's like the old AM, FM radios where you can take us anywhere at any time.
And I might add too, later on in the segment, we're actually going to be taking some live calls. So if you feel like you have questions about what we're discussing today, please feel free to call us at 423-800-8949, and we'd be happy to field your calls relative to the discussion that's happening today.
And that's 423-800-8949. And we will be taking a break here in just a second. So after that, call in, ask Danielle anything. Well, not anything. You may want to, she may not be very good in geography.
I'm an open book, but
her geography is not her forte. But when it comes to medical issues, I think it's very interesting hearing your side of this. And I'm sure there are a lot of doctors out there that would love to be able to spend the time with the patients that you do, but they can't.
Right. And that's, again, the sick care model of medicine. That's what we're discussing, I think, in this segment. So when physicians are working in a system and they're seeing 30 plus patients a day, what that equates to is they don't have time to do their job very well because they're pressured to do, it's not just seeing the patient face to face. We've talked about there's charting that has to happen. We have to call in medicines for patients at that time so they get them picked up appropriately. Oh my gosh, there's emails, there's phone messages.
Right.
Oh, by the way, if you're in academic medicine, you need to prep that lecture that you need to give in 2 days.
Yeah, it's not like it's
just
not an 8 to 5 job. You go and watch cable.
That's
at 5:30, you're watching the news.
This is not Scrubs. Yeah. I mean, part of it maybe, but it is not. So when we look at the responsibilities, I think that physicians are facing, and this also, I've brought this up in conversation before, that when you correlate what's going on with physicians, well, I follow some very big polls on career satisfaction in our profession. And Medscape just released a poll in 2014. They're collecting new data for 2015. The burnout rate amongst physicians, take a guess.
I'm going to say it's above 60%.
It's very close, 52%.
Wow.
So,
really? That's a little lower than I thought. I figured it would be high, especially with, with the government getting involved, which is always nice. I mean, you have a pleasant experience trying to get your driver's license. So now you want to take that model and put it with a doctor. So I bet it's going to be higher. I would say you'd see it go higher.
Yeah. So there's really, I think, a big disparity that's going on. 52% burnout rate. What that equates to, Sam, is that, or Eric, is that people are essentially going in to see a physician, and 1 out of every 2 physicians is actively looking to leave medicine.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, and we're already in the midst of a healthcare crisis on
shortages anyway.
Yes, especially with primary care.
Well, that should help.
So, yeah, exactly right. The other corollary to this, and this is a stark reality, the gravity of this next statistic is just so in people's faces. What do you think, when you look at suicide completion rates amongst all professions, guess who's number one?
Probably doctors.
Yep, used to be dentists, now it's doctors.
And I bet doctors in Alaska, they really don't even stand a chance, do they?
No sunshine up there, right? Where you get no sunshine 23 hours a day. But, it's really, we've got a crisis going on within a healthcare crisis. And I think drawing attention to this from all sides of the argument is going to hopefully help stimulate discussions that bring about solutions to this. And I think the direct primary care model is one way to go about doing that, making some long-term positive changes in the system.
Well, the doc is in the house here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. And when we come back, if you have an ailment, or maybe we didn't cover something that, you're thinking it didn't work out, you didn't understand as far as the health care, which is very important, give us a call, 423-800-8949.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005. 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's EJ Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets. Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week took over as Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union 7 days before the 9/11 attacks. Anthony Romero will be here to talk about the growing need to protect liberties guaranteed by the Constitution. Don't miss an honest look at post 9/11 America right here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You're listening to Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. And I'm Dr. Danielle Mitchell, and this doc is in the house. Joining me today, I have Eric, Mr. Grumpy.
That's me, Mr. Grumpy, every day. Actually, my show is the happiest show here on the radio.
Heck yeah, that's the one to hold up,
Yes.
I think. Awesome.
That's what I like to say, at least.
So we are here today discussing the sick care model of medicine and how it impacts you and your finances with stuff and the quality of care you receive. So one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is we're taking live calls. The phone number here is 423-800-8949. If you have questions with regards to a healthcare experience that you've had relative to our topic of discussion here, I encourage you, please call in. We'd love to discuss it with you. So looking at this discussion point that we've been delving into about the sick care model, one of the things that I really am fascinated with is how complex all of these problems are and how they're creating some of the worst healthcare outcomes our nation has ever faced. One of the things that I actively talk about is how much the United States spends on...
And we have a caller.
We have a caller, just a sec.
Okay. Hello, caller. You are on the air.
Hi, Doc and Eric. My question's on carbs and low fat.
Did you say cars?
What's the best way to lose weight?
Did you say cars or carbs?
Carbs.
Carbs.
Okay, we don't want you eating cars, first of all. That would be bad.
But if you play in traffic, you could go see Dr. Danielle here pretty soon.
Yeah. So what's your question on carbs?
What's the best way to lose weight? You see calories, carbs. What's the best way when you're eating regular food?
I love this.
What to avoid and not to avoid.
Yeah. So this is a great question. I'm sorry. What was your first name?
Mike.
Mike. All right. Mike. So one of the things that I really try to get my patients involved in is the bottom line is eating real food, first of all. When you look at the amount of processed food consumption, and processed food is foods that come from boxes, packages, bottles, and cans, or a fast food drive-up window. Processed food consumption, I think, is responsible for a large amount of the bad healthcare outcomes that we are struggling with as a nation right now. So first of all, I try to eliminate processed food consumption to be less than 20% of the overall diet. That is a huge hurdle for most people to face with stuff. And that's where a lot of carbohydrate consumption comes in. You've also hit on one of my big, it's almost a pet peeve of mine that I'm trying to really reverse, is that a lot of times people ask me the question, how many calories should I be eating in a day? Well, my next question back to them is, how much processed foods are you consuming in your diet? Because calorie counting and restricting calories is something that I'll do for people who have a large amount of processed foods going into their diet. Processed foods are calories. They are not nutritionally dense foods. And so when somebody's consuming just a huge amount of calories with stuff, then I'll come back and say, you know what? For your height, your stature, and your body build, I wouldn't want you to consume any more than 1,600 calories on the current diet you're on. And I want to stress that number would be different depending on the individual sitting in front of me. So that's number one.
That's 1,600 calories a day?
And this is so individualized. That's for somebody who is on a processed foods diet.
Do you know how mad I would be with 1,600 calories?
Well, but here's the deal. And this is what gets people energized. I really try to have them basically get rid of the processed foods, because here's the magical thing that happens. They then, if somebody increases the amount of real food in their diet, I don't calorie restrict them.
Okay.
Right?
That makes sense.
Right? So processed foods are they're nutritionally bankrupt. They are calories only, but there is no nutritional density that's in them
Because it's
usually.
fried out, cooked out.
It's
There's
processed
never
out.
anything there.
Yeah. So when you look at foods that are heavily processed, let's look at flour, for example. I don't know how many of you have actually milled your own flour. I have.
Well, I gave that up. It was an addiction.
Right.
And so I just said no.
I'm done with milling flour. But when you look at flour, for example, flour, if you make your own flour and you mill it, the vitamins and nutrient density after about 2 to 3 weeks is almost gone. And then the flour will actually go rancid sitting on your shelf. So whenever you go and buy flour in the store, it's what we call enriched. Has anybody seen the magic word enriched?
Enriched, yes.
Yeah. And enriched, when you read after it, it's like there's all these sexy, seductive terms.
Well, I was thinking there was money on the inside.
I know, it's like a Cracker Jack. Where's the prize in the bag? So looking at the term enriched, basically what that amounts to is they've taken the magic pixie dust that's got vitamins in it, a small amount, and goes,
blew it out of or blew it in?
Blew it into it, but it's very minuscule amounts of vitamins that are in it. So compared to the original product, you suddenly have a product that is completely different than what it was 2 weeks ago, but it has to be able to sit on a shelf. And is it realistic for everybody to mill their own flour? No, it's not. It's very time consuming. But getting at this idea and notion of what happens to foods when they're processed, you're losing nutritional density. And so we really want to try and reintroduce foods that are nutritionally dense.
So mainly vegetables and
I'm a huge
fruits.
proponent. Yeah, huge proponent of real food. I'm okay. People are oftentimes surprised. They're like, you think it's
Give me an example of a real food dinner or lunch. We're about to hit lunch here in less than 30 minutes. Give me a real food lunch as compared to the one that I can drive through the window and grab.
Here we go. So this is what I'm eating today. I always like to, if you follow me on social media, we have this phrase on social media that's called food porn, and we'll post pictures of our food with stuff so people can see what it is we're actually eating.
So you're on the Ashley Madison site of food. There you go.
I have a
now
strong...
all of a sudden we're in on the digital drive. We got to stay away from that. The adolescent's going to get mad at us.
I have a love affair with food, and I am proud to share that with people. And I'm very passionate about food too, because why wouldn't you be? Food, Hippocrates said it best, let food be your medicine. Right? And so that's really the approach that I use in my practice. I try to get people passionate and reinvigorated through multiple ways about really going back to the basics of cooking and cooking in a healthy way.
Okay, I want to hear what you're having for lunch, then I'll tell you what I'm having.
Get ready. Okay, so, and I've prepared, this is actually my lunch this whole week. Okay. So my lunch is going to be in the crock pot. This last week, I took some chicken breasts, skinless, boneless, and I put a dry ranch mix on them and coated them, threw in a can of black beans, threw in a can of whole kernel corn. Both of those were organic. The chicken breasts were antibiotic free, and we'll talk about why that's important. Antibiotics actually contribute to obesity. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, and they say, well, I'm not on antibiotics. Well, where do you get your meat?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, exactly. If you're getting feedlot raised beef, yes, you are on antibiotics. And then, so the canned corn, 2 cans of green chilies. And then I threw in anywhere from a quarter to, depending on how big the chicken breasts are, a quarter to a half of a cube of cream cheese. And then you let that sit in the crock pot for 6 hours. And then in the next morning when it's ready, you just shred it up. And I've got a really nice...
it's kind of a soup type consistency?
It's like a burrito filling with stuff. And it is
And do you put it
amazing.
in a burrito or do you eat it?
If I'm feeling like adventurous and I need a little bit of additional nutritional density and stuff, I might go ahead and put it like on top of a salad, like spinach leaves. I might put it on something else. Like if I want to have a burrito, then I'll sprinkle a little bit of cheese over it and just a smaller shell. So my processed food consumption, I keep it less than 20%. Am I going to have a burrito shell like 3-4 times a week? Sure, because that's still keeping me under 20% with stuff.
Well, see, I'm going to have a tall boy and a slim Jim, so that's a little different.
Okay, so that's not food, ladies and gentlemen. That's not food.
It's awful fun.
Yeah, I know, right? We can have fun 20% of the weekly consumption.
So you're saying 20, you can eat, for lack of a better term, bad.
Yep.
You can look at porn 20% of the time, or food porn, or
if you want to look at
there
food porn 20% of the time and consume it, I'm okay with that. So the other corollary to that question I'll often ask is how many meals a week do you eat out at like a restaurant? And the average I'd probably say that I get is anywhere between 4 to 8 times a week.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot, and it's expensive.
And I'd say
too.
lunch is the highest part.
Lunch is probably the bigger one. If I have families with kiddos and sports, that's another big one, because that time pressure is suddenly there with stuff. So they're really, they're pressured to, the drive-through is much easier at that point than, going home and making a meal. But that's really where you have to plan ahead. Your preparation is key with stuff.
So the caller asked how many calories or carbs per day.
Yep.
And your answer was, it all depends on what you're really eating.
Yeah, if you're eating a high amount of
if you're having the
processed food
Slim
consumption,
Jim and beer, then I probably exceeded
then I'm going to
that.
let you have 1 calorie
There
a
you
day.
go. Then I get 1 calorie. I'll be one. Grumpy will not be my name. I can tell you.
I know, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Grumpy here.
Yeah, that would be it.
All right. So back to, this discussion on the sick care model of medicine, I really want to hammer home on some important points about what's going on because, so far we've examined like the ramifications of corporate medicine and how doctors now are pressured to see more patients. They have less face-to-face time. A lot of times patients have less than 5 minutes of discussion with their doctor. I advocate and say you cannot accurately arrive at a correct diagnosis by literally only having less than 5 minutes of discussion with someone.
Well, I would say so.
And you have to examine your patient as well. So we don't.
Now, when you talk about examining, is the physical part of the examination important, or is the conversational part just as important?
I think, and I was trained on a classic model of medicine, Dr. Mark Lorio, who was my internal medicine attending, who all the women swooned over him when he spoke. He was like a Greek god, if you will. But his belief is that 90% of your diagnosis is in listening to your patient. 90%.
I can see that because people are going to tell you what's wrong.
That's exactly right. And so I really am a true believer in making sure that I'm sitting down and I'm listening to my patient, because that's where the art of medicine happens. That's where you connect with people. That's where you're able to figure out, okay, we might not have all the answers here today, but I have a very good idea, I think, of where this might be coming from. And it's literally trying, you do trial and error with stuff. And so really taking the time with people is so important for having a good quality healthcare outcome. And that's not happening in the sick care model of medicine.
I can see that.
So we break away from that
because
model.
the corporate entity is in. I mean, everybody, it really rotates around insurance.
That's right.
And
And so
the practices are set up for insurance.
yes. And so when you look at, that's the next question. Why are doctors being forced by their employer to see 30 plus patients a day? Well, you have to go back to what is the profit driver there? And this is where I, in private practice, ended up seeing really what's going on behind the curtain. So I want to share with you, and this is today. Wednesdays is normally my business day at the clinic, so we're closed on Wednesdays, but I have maintained having my finger on the pulse for what insurance companies are reimbursing us back for procedures. So on one, I have what's called an EOB, an explanation of benefits, and everybody gets one whenever they go and use their insurance with stuff. And it basically tells you what the doctor billed, what the doctor tried to submit for a charge, and then what the insurance company paid or denied.
Right.
So I have a reimbursement here on somebody who I performed not only their physical, but I also addressed a couple of healthcare concerns for them that fall outside of the parameters of physical. And so there was well over 30 minutes of time spent with this patient. I want you to guess what they paid me for more than 30 minutes of time with this patient.
What insurance paid you?
What insurance reimbursed back to me?
For more than 30 minutes. You did an exam. I'm going to say $250.
I got paid a whopping $34.07.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, really?
Right?
It's going to be hard to pay back that $200,000.
For over $200,000 on my med school loans. I'm going to be paying that until I hit the grave with stuff. Yeah, so that's for almost 45 minutes of time that was spent with this particular patient, and they came back and paid me $34.07.
But I'm sure they justified it somewhere.
Yeah, I think they justified it, and they said they cut the reimbursement. They do all these really nice little things where if you do a physical for someone, and then, most docs are so pressed for time that they're going to see one thing and one thing only. We don't do that. We believe at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, we believe in addressing the whole patient, because guess what? You're not just an arm. You're not just a leg. You're just not your stomach.
It's the whole body.
All of those things are intertwined. And so what we ended up...
And your chart. Because
Yeah.
you said earlier, you're a chart. You're the whole body on the chart.
The whole body in the
I'm
chart.
learning.
You are the whole big schlemagle with stuff. So whenever we try and address a patient's concerns, let's say they come in for their physical and they're like, I also have this issue. I've been having this stomach pain. Maybe I've had some blood in my stool. I'm not going to ignore that.
Right.
I'm not going to ignore that. We're going to get the physical knocked out because that's their preventative medicine there. But I am going to spend the time, especially if it's an urgent need, I'm going to spend the time talking with them about that, because that patient might not come back to me. right? They might get involved in other life
Or they
circumstances.
may think I've got a physical, everything's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So when I spend that time addressing that second healthcare concern, and I've already done the physical, an insurance company will come back and say, oh, thank you so much for doing both a physical and addressing an office visit concern on the same day. You know what? We're going to actually slash your reimbursement to the office visit more than 50%.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. People don't know about this.
Okay.
This is what's happening. So you're listening to Hot News Talk Radio. If you'd like to listen to us live stream, please join us on hotnewstalkradio.com. And if you want to ask us a question, 423-800-8949.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect lots of clouds with scattered showers and thunder showers likely for today. High temperatures holding into the lower 80s. Tonight, a few lingering showers for a while, low 68 to 70. A few more passing showers with some clouds on Thursday, with a little drier and pleasant weather returning Friday. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world-famous sauce. Open daily locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life.
Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off.
Social media, we're on that. Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, at Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter. Download the TuneIn app and follow us anywhere at any time. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Thank you for joining us. This is Dr. Danielle Mitchell of the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, and we are at Hot News Talk Radio. Please join us on the web for live stream at hotnewstalkradio.com. If you'd like to call in and ask us a question, our number here is 423-800-8949, and we are at 1240 AM Hot News Talk Radio. Joining me today is Dr. Grumpy.
Dr. Grumpy, that's me.
Dr. Grumpy, Dr. Eric Grumpy, right?
No, there's no doctor now. Let's not get.
All right.
There's a lot of things I say I am on the radio.
We'll
but
give you an honorary
not.
PhD in
That's
being
it.
grumpy today.
Okay, now I can take that. I'll take that 1 hour PhD.
There we go. Well, so today we're actually talking about the sick care model of medicine and how it impacts not only the health and well-being of patients who are stuck in it right now, but also the health and well-being of physicians who I think are being essentially forced to work in the system, because there's really not other models that are really robust right now to help support an alternative payment plan and an alternative lifestyle or well-being platform for them. My clinic, the Chattanooga Sports Institute, has stepped away from the sick care model of medicine, and our goal over the next 2 years is to gradually phase out insurance companies and set up direct primary care, which means you come in to see your doctor. There's no middleman. You pay us. We provide you the care. It's all transparent.
I come in for my once a year physical Do I know how much it, and I say, I don't want to use my insurance. Okay. So
what it is. So if you
how much is it? Do I know up front? Or,
so if you go to our
you have a
website,
menu or?
Yes, we do. On our website at www.chattanoogasportsinstitute.com, we have our pricing menu, and we have 3 options available currently. So for somebody who is eligible for membership, the membership essentially is $50 a month, and we bill that in 3-month installments of $150. What does that get you? 4 30-minute office visits throughout the year, and it gets you drastically reduced ancillary services. So let's say you break your arm, which is a big fear for people. They're like, that's expensive when you break the arm. A lot of times people will go to the emergency room for that. That's $1,000 usually just to walk through the door and be logged in as a patient there. In our model with stuff, if let's say it's a member, so the member comes in and they have 4 visits. So on their first visit, they have 1 of their 4 visits that's used. Then X-rays. Okay. We may have broken your wrist. So usually on that, I'll usually need to get about 3 X-rays. X-rays for members are $10 per film. So that's $30 for a total set of X-rays.
Okay.
Let's say I look at the X-rays and I'm like, gosh darn it, you did break it. So we need to cast you. Well, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how much is a cast going to cost?
So screen test is how much?
Yeah, screen test, right. No, it's like, let's see the element of surprise when you're told by corporate medicine, this is going to cost you a few $100s just for the cast. For us, a short arm cast is $20.
Wow.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
So I can go out and break my arm all day long.
You can break your arm all day long, and we'll be there to cast it for you.
There you go. But I mean, that's pretty cool. So you've got a yearly membership.
Yep.
And so you charge $50 a month, which is, I mean, that's a lot cheaper than any insurance premium you can get right
Absolutely.
now.
So, when you look at, a lot of people are like, well, what do I do if I, have like a major catastrophe? I want to get back to the root of like what insurance I believe should be utilized for. Okay. Think about the word insurance. Insurance is like, oh my gosh, if I have a major cluster with stuff, do I have something that is going to be able to cover my hiney in that disaster?
Yeah, if you have a car wreck and you total your car, your insurance steps in.
So we're using the big words: accident, catastrophe, cluster. I mean, these are like big things, right? But how often, I guess you have to assess your risk, and that's what insurance is all about. It's assessing risk. Unfortunately, I feel like the time that we're in now, insurance is really trying to step into the role of providing health care, and that's not their job.
I agree.
That's my job.
So mainly if you had catastrophic care, is what you, and I agree with that totally. I mean, I think that's the way to go.
Right. So when you look at the overall consumption of healthcare for people who are relatively healthy and they're like, maybe, I mean, classic example, I think I'm healthy. I don't go to the doctor very often. Well, so drop your insurance coverage to the bare bones policy that you're comfortable with to let you go in if you have a major accident where you get hospitalized or you have surgery with stuff and the bill is going to be pretty big. The downfall of that is that your monthly premium is going to go down and you'll save money, but your deductible will go up. But how often are you going to have a disaster? That's what you have to ask yourself. And that's really some soul searching that a lot of people have to do, because they're like, well, how healthy am I really?
Yeah, how do you live? You're a skydiver, then maybe you want to.
Yeah. So this is, and again, too, our model works for people who, like, I manage actually a large triathlete population here, which, talking about bike crashes and overuse injuries, and these people actually could do very well on our membership model because now they suddenly have this bank of visits that's there for them to utilize.
All right, let me ask you this, because the big thing is copay. Everybody in their insurance, I've got a copay and a prescription card. So what would you suggest there? If you're carrying just catastrophic care, prescription can get pretty expensive. Is there anything that you can do in your membership?
Yes. So number one, the first thing I do is I try to prevent for writing the prescription in the first place.
Okay.
Right?
I like that. I'd much rather. Yeah.
Right. A lot of times my patients will come in.
An extra beer at lunch instead of a. Is that what you say?
Exactly.
You have that extra beer. You don't care if you're sick or not.
Yeah. No, what I really try to do is I focus on prevention. And that's not what's happening in the vast majority of visits now. People think like, I had somebody comment, they were like, I felt like when I saw my doctor for my physical, I was literally just going in to get weighed that day.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's how people think about physicals. The classic physical should really be this preventative visit. And if you're really healthy with stuff, great, man, I don't need to see you for another year with stuff. But a lot of times the proof is in the pudding. When we get labs back, or when I start assessing health risk, and especially when I see people that are eating large amounts of processed foods, they're not exercising, they're sleep deprived, they're not really set with a good emotional well-being platform. These are people who are at just such high risk for disease.
Right.
And when you look at, again, how doctors are not able to come back and talk about those preventative things because they don't have time and they don't have training. Well, could we refer them to like a registered dietitian? A lot of insurance plans don't reimburse for nutritional services.
So, yeah, but I like that. I'd much rather be prescribed something besides a pill to take, or even if it's herbal medicine or something you poultice up in the back, with your flour mill, you might be. I'm kidding.
So we are really, I'm also into naturopathic medicine, as well as, again, a holistic approach. But our clinic is also famous for the Goya prescription, which is get off your ass.
I like that.
And then the second one is stop putting crap in your mouth, because that's really
so get off your ass or stop putting crap in your mouth and get off
your ass. Yep. So ask your doctor if getting off your ass is right for you. That's a phrase that you'll see a lot on social media with stuff. We really truly believe that the solutions to poor healthcare outcomes are really in the time that is spent with the patient in the beginning.
Is nutrition and activity.
Yeah. Nutrition, if you ask me, nutrition, I think, is 80% of the equation.
Wow.
80%.
Okay, they've listened to you, and by the way, she's going to be here every other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday.
So the doc will be in the house.
This doc is in the house.
That's it.
Every other Wednesday.
But you're always at your clinic. I'm guessing not 24/7, 7 days a week, but you can give your phone number out and give your website again.
ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. And we are open Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're open for people who have lives and have to work till 5 p.m.
Right.
And then on Fridays, we're open from 9 to 5. And as our clinic grows with stuff, we will be looking at expanding hours, especially for urgent care access. Right now, our model is growing, which is great. Like, I'm really pleased to see that people understand and embrace the value of having direct primary care, where you get the insurance and the middleman out of the equation to get better healthcare outcomes.
Is there information, and can they sign up on your website to become a member?
They need to come into the clinic, or they can call us. The phone number is 423-875-1005. And they can certainly find us too on Facebook, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. And they can find me personally as well, Danielle Mitchell. And we're more than happy to sit down and talk with people, especially during their visits, about how all of this model will eventually hopefully contribute to better healthcare outcomes.
So I'm guessing that when the drug reps come by, you're probably that call that they kind of put their head down and.
So we actually have a sign on the front of the clinic from day one. I have not allowed drug reps into our clinic.
Oh, wow. Really?
Don't. Period.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
And they've tried to muscle their way in too. It's been kind of interesting. But any solicitations, this is another thing that happens that I think is so presumptuous of people's time. I'll have drug reps that will drop by. I'll have equipment reps, the whole 9 yards. No appointment. They come in expecting my time face-to-face with stuff. And especially with medicines. I'm not anti-medicine. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
They have their time and place with stuff. But I'm not going to just give the prescription, walk in and out, and be done with the patient. I'm trying to avoid giving that prescription in the first place.
Well, a lot of drug reps, it seems like they come in and maybe take priority.
Yeah, and that's so unfair. Could you imagine being a patient and you've been waiting to see your doctor for like 3 months, and you finally get in and you've waited like 2 hours in the waiting room, and then, oh my goodness, by the time your doctor gets to you, or the provider that sees you, they just came in because they had the drug rep lunch. I mean, that to me, like, they're late to the appointment. That's not good use of your patient's time. It's
not good use of your time either.
Exactly. So I really have shied away from the prescription model with stuff and tried to really give preventative medicine. So, in summary with stuff, what we're trying to advocate for is that there's this new model right now. About 6 to anywhere 10% of all primary care physicians in the nation are moving towards direct primary care, which is eliminating insurance companies, having transparent pricing, having a pricing menu so people people know how much it's going to cost before they see the doctor. We also have a pay-as-you-go for people who are like, I don't want to see the doctor 4 times a year. I don't think I need that. That's $60 per 15 minutes of time used. They still get reduced services to other, like our ancillary services, not as much as a member would. And then over the next 2 to 3 years, we're hoping to completely phase out insurance companies altogether.
I like that. I like the membership deal. I mean, I think that is, hopefully that's going to be the way of the future. The digital drive is going to follow us. And he said that he's going to be talking about, converting over to Apple. I think the adolescent said he'll be all Apple, no, I'm getting a look, man, I'm getting fire from the eyes. And y'all, I may not be here tomorrow after that. Wow. But anyway, digital drive follows us from 12 to 1. And then after him, the one and only Clutch, which I will be appearing again on Clutch. We're going to do our picks there. And that's our local sports show hosted by Keon, the one and only Keon the Rose.
So thank you so much, you guys, for joining us today on 1240 AM Hot News Talk Radio. Today we have our honorary PhD Dr. Eric Grumpy.
For the hour.
For the hour.
From 11 to noon.
And you can join me every other Wednesday at 11 a.m. on 1240 AM Hot News Talk Radio. Join us for live stream at hotnewstalkradio.com. And we will rebroadcast over YouTube if you search
YouTube, and then just go to YouTube and type in Hot News Talk Radio. Same way with Twitter and Facebook. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, because that's where we let you report, and we'll let Chattanooga decide. Thank you. Great show, too.
Thank you so much, you guys. Looking forward to more.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News. I'm Steve Kathan. Secretary of State Kerry says the U.S. is trying to figure out how many migrants from the Mideast who've swept into Europe should be brought here. Live to CBS's Stephen Portnoy on Capitol Hill.
After meeting with lawmakers here, Secretary of State Kerry says the U.S. is committed to taking in Syrian refugees. But how many?
That's being vetted fully right now, and I think at the appropriate time we'll have a better sense of exactly what that number can be.
Earlier, House Speaker John Boehner blamed the crisis on President Obama and what he called a lack of strategy in taking on ISIS. Still, Boehner said the situation is serious and must be dealt with.
How we deal with it and what our role is in trying to help resolve it, frankly, is unclear to me at this moment.
Live on Capitol Hill, Stephen Portnoy, CBS News.
Pentagon correspondent David Martin reports 100 Russian naval infantry have been spotted at an airfield in a key Syrian port city. It's believed Moscow may be setting up a forward operating base for air operations. At the Rowan County Clerk's office in Kentucky, CBS's Jerika Duncan tells us what a deputy clerk is saying about issuing marriage licenses to gay and lesbian couples.
Brian Mason telling me this morning that he will continue to do his job and sign off on those same-sex marriage licenses, even if his boss, Kim Davis, tells him not to do so. When she returns, she's expected to return here Friday or possibly Monday.
Davis spent 5 days in jail for defying court orders to issue licenses to same-sex couples. A Baltimore City panel has given final approval to the $6.4 million wrongful death settlement with Freddie Gray's family. Gray's death from injuries suffered in police custody touched off protests and riots in April. State athletic officials in Texas are reviewing the case of the football referee hit by 2 players during a high school game last week. Video of the incident's been seen by millions online. Charles Breithaupt is executive director of the University Interscholastic League.
We cannot ever, and we will not ever, tolerate the abuse of any person, particularly our sports officials. Our rules are set up to protect our officials.
The 2 players suspended from school and off the team contend the referee used racial slurs. He denies it. An assistant coach on the team has been accused of inciting the incident. There were plenty of shark sightings off the Atlantic coast this summer. CBS's Peter King has a look at the southeast.
Government researchers say they've captured, tagged, and released more than 2,800 sharks between Florida and North Carolina. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says that's up by more than 700 from the last survey 3 years ago, and it sets a new record. The largest shark found was a 12.5-footer. The increase comes as North Carolina set a new record for shark attacks on humans with 8.
New York's become the first U.S. city to approve salt warnings for chain restaurant menus. Wall Street, the Dow is up 1 point. This is CBS News.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to begin? Do you fear your job is in jeopardy, or is your business income reduction keeping you awake at night? We're in the best time in 25 years to make a fortune in real estate without using your money or credit. My name is Ron LeGrand, and I've taught 500,000 people to do just that and personally bought hundreds of houses myself. If you'll call 800-473-7178, 24 hours, and leave your information, I'll send you the first 500 callers my hot new CD, Foreclosure Fortunes, and my best-selling book to help you get started absolutely free. I'll show you how to build a six-figure income part-time with no previous experience and no license, even if you're a busy professional. Call 800-473-7178, 24 hours, and get my new book and CD. That's 800-473-7178. Take your life back and make this your best year ever. Call 800-473-7178.
Queen Elizabeth today becomes the longest-serving British monarch. CBS's Vicky Barker is in London.
Her Majesty insisted she didn't want a fuss on the day she overtook her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, but...
Hip, hip!
So, opening a new railroad line in Scotland, Queen Elizabeth unbent just a little.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception. But I thank you all for your touching messages of great kindness.
Then she and her husband, Prince Philip, boarded the train. Another day at the office for her, just like the 23,225 that went before. Vicky Barker, CBS News, London.
GM is recalling 121,000 Cadillac ATS vehicles because the rear window defroster control can overheat and catch fire. The automaker has 4 reports of fires, but no injuries. Steve Kathan, CBS News.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week took over as Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union 7 days before the 9/11 attacks. Anthony Romero will be here to talk about the growing need to protect liberties guaranteed by the Constitution. Don't miss an honest look at post 9/11 America right here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Soddy Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
Expect lots of clouds with some scattered showers moving in for the afternoon. High temperatures settling into the lower 80s. Tonight, a lingering shower or thunder shower may hang on for a while, low 68 to 70. Morning showers and thunder showers will push through on Thursday. Highs closer to 80, a little drier for Friday. Check out account temps. Do you have what it takes to head for accounting stardom?